Central tendency measures, 3-7. Make sure I spell this right. Tendency. Okay, so mean, median, and mode is what we're talking about today. And we think about the easiest one to look at is probably which one? Mean, median, or mode? Mean. Sorry, I heard two things. I think mode is probably the easiest one because that one you can look at the numbers and say that's the mode. What would be the next easiest one to find? Mean or median?
Mean. Median. It's mean.
Which one? I would think it's median because all you have to do is arrange them in order, find the middle number. And then which one would be probably the toughest one?
Median.
Median. Wow. We just said median. So it's going to be the mean. That's going to be the toughest one. All right. Let's look at mean first. Then let's get it. So if you're looking on page 178, what is the definition of the mean? Lucy?
The set of data, mean is the set of data. The mean of a set of data is the sum of the numbers in a set divided by the number of a set of numbers in the set.
Yeah, and that's that phrase number of numbers, that can be kind of confusing, but I try to use that same phrase because that's basically how you describe the mean. So you get to find the mean, add the numbers and divide by the number of numbers. I'll move in just a moment. Of numbers. This is a measure of central tendency because when you add all the numbers and then divide by the number of numbers, the final mean value that you get is trying to show how those numbers in that data tend to go toward that average. So what does mean stand for, or what does mean mean? Average. That's all you're doing with average. Do you guys remember how we found the number in between two numbers? Remember the fraction problems? Find the number in between two numbers. Do you know what you were really finding?
Mean.
The mean of the two numbers, the average. You add the two numbers together, and then you divide by how many?
Numbers.
2, yeah, because you have two numbers. Yes, the number of numbers. Okay, so let's look at a problem that we're going to work on. Page 179. Do you see that set underneath where the definition of median? Okay, those numbers I want you to find the mean. And they're also in that other page, but I'll ask you to find the mean of those 10 numbers. Yeah. So what do you have to do with those numbers?
You have to
Add them together and then divide by 10. Why 10? Because there are 10 numbers. So it's on 179. And it's the 726, 411, 407, 407, so on and so forth. And that's set. Add them all up. Go ahead and work it out any way that you wanted to add them up together, and I'll do it another way. Possibly, and your classmates may do it another way, and that's okay. Okay, as you're doing it, some of you are already done. Good. What are some ways to add these numbers up? What did you do? Maybe that's different than mine. Yes, Jack?
I just add them right to left.
Okay, right to, and did you just put a long string of them? Yes, you put a long addition problem, same thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I do it that way a lot of times. Here's just a long string. But what did I do here? I did something weird here. Yes, sir?
You did, so if you look at the numbers, you did which one you think is easier to add.
Okay, that's actually a good strategy. I didn't go that far. I just added two at a time.
Closest together.
Yeah, I just added two at a time, then added those results, two at a time here, three at a time there, added those two results, I get my number. I don't care how you add it, as long as you get it right. Now, don't use a calculator, because we're not using it for these problems. I want to test your addition, and I want to test your division. So what was the number? What do I have here? Oh, 368.2. Did you get that? 368.2? That's your mean. That's your average. Okay, where did we get these numbers? These numbers are random, aren't they? I mean, they're pretty like, okay, what are they for? Look at page 178. And do you guys see that chart that says charity and then millions of dollars? Okay, can someone read that first paragraph to the left of it? It tells you what those numbers are for. That little paragraph right to the left where it says the table. Yes, Autumn. What does it say? The table.
Table on the right shows the top 10 charities and amount of contributions for receiving.
Okay, so for 1 year, these 10 charities received contributions for that amount of money. Is it $726 for Salvation Army? It's $726 million. The Boy Scouts, $211 million. So we have there the top 10 contributors, or sorry, top 10 charities. So what was their average? We would say 368.2. So $368.20. No, 368 million. And you could technically say 200,000, but that's how much they're giving for that year on average, million. That's a lot of money. Yes, ma'am.
I got 3,782.
So something happened with the addition. And then the division had to be by 10. So it would have given you a hundreds value. So just check your... Oh, okay, so yeah, but the number's off, so something's wrong. Something got added a little bit off. Okay. Are all the numbers close to that mean? Are all the numbers close to that mean? What would you say? Your opinion. Let's go with Abby. What do you think? Are all those millions of dollar amounts close to that mean?
Yes. Well, no.
What do you mean by not all of them? Really? Which one's not close to it?
726.
Yeah, do you see the Salvation Army made 300 million more than the next best, or the next highest, the Catholic Charities of USA. So we say that the Salvation Army pulled that average up very high. Do you think the Boy Scouts of America are pretty close?
No.
Your opinion, what do you think? Yes or no? Jackson's saying no, why not? Oh, so compared to the mean.
Oh, yes, and it's close.
Okay, it's fairly close. Look at, if you didn't have Salvation Army, wouldn't all the numbers be very close to the mean? And the mean would change. It would actually lower, but all the numbers would be very close. So that Salvation Army, they added a lot more to it. Okay, median. The second one here, the median. This is, for some reason, people get stuck on this one. Please remember how to find the median, because you know the concept, but maybe you don't apply it correctly. So look at page 179. Matt, can you read the definition of median?
The median of a set of data is the middle number when the numbers instead are arranged in numerical order.
Okay, so you remember on page 179? Look at those numbers again listed out. Can you find the median the way it's written out? You can find it. How did they arrange it? So they arranged in order. We tend to do least to greatest. Fine, they did greatest to least, but whether you arrange it from least first to greatest or greatest to least, it's in order. So can you find the median of those numbers? Yes. Yeah, isn't it between 395 and 355? So how do you find that median? Yes, you have to find the average of the two. Remember the two numbers, add them up, divide them by 2. That's how you find that median. So here, median, the middle number of a set, bless you, when arranged in order. So in order. If you want to do least to greatest all the time, fine, that's good. If you want to do greatest to least, fine, that's good. But you got to have it in order before you can even get that median. All right, here's a little trick. You can write this down if you want. You don't have to, but here's a trick. How many pieces of data did we have in this set? 10. If you have an even number of numbers, to find the median, you're going to have to find the average of the two middle numbers. You're always going to have to find the average. What if you have an odd number of numbers? It is going to be the exact middle number, okay? You can't have an exact middle when you have even, but you can when you have odd. So that's something to help yourself out if you know how many numbers in the set. Okay. Can you have more than one median? No. Can you have more than one mean?
Yes.
No, you can't. Can you have more than one mode?
Yes.
Oh, so let's talk about the mode. What's the mode again?
The set of data is that occurs most often in
the mode of a set of data is the number that occurs most often in the set. The number, and I'll put it here to help you out, the number or numbers that occurs most often. Most often. That's the mode. Do you have to arrange it in order to find the mode? Nope, you just have to be able to see them. Arranging in order might be able to help you see it because you can say, oh, there's 2 of these numbers, but you don't have to do that. Okay, we'll do one example and then I'll give you your assignment, which isn't long. All right, I don't want you to look at the answers because it does you no good if you're just going to copy the answers without doing the work. Can we look at example number 1? Example number 1. Can someone read that for me, please? Okay, Jack.
When the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, George III was king of Great Britain. After George III, Great Britain had 7 months before Queen Elizabeth II was crowned queen in 1952. The table on the right shows the number of years that each monarch reigned. Find the mean, median, and mode of the data.
You know what's interesting about the Georges, the King Georges? King George I, he died unexpectedly. You know how he died? Guillotine, yeah. In that time, George I, at that time, the people were starting to realize, hey, you know what? The kings are not from God. They don't come directly from God. He's just a man, and he actually makes a lot of mistakes. So eventually, after many political trials, King George is executed. And the people rule for about 7 years. And guess what? King George the Second comes back and says, you know what? I'm taking back, and with his army, takes back England. And guess what happened to all those people who took out King George the First? They were either imprisoned or killed. One person who I will name, John Milton. Do you guys know John Milton? No. He's English, but he may have traveled to an Asian country. John Milton was one of those guys. John Milton was imprisoned, and he was ready to get executed because of his role in King George I's death. But you know who John Milton knew? A lot of powerful people. So they said, no, don't get rid of John Milton, let him go free. And he was eventually freed. But King George II came back, and he took care of all his opponents. And that's why we have King George III, who ends up being the king that we revolt against in the American Revolution. So yeah, I love that. Love history. And that's one of those. Anyway, let's find the median, mode, and mean of the number of years of the kings after George III and before Queen Elizabeth II. Wow, Queen Victoria was there for a long time. Do you know what happened during Queen Victoria's time? Britain was at its
tipping point.
Peak, yeah. Queen Victoria.
That too.
So they had the most colonies, and they lost the American colonies, but they still had a lot around. But they started losing a bunch because, hey, if America can do that, why can't we? And then you have a bunch of revolts because they start getting spirited to get their own independence. So we caused something to happen in the world as well. Yes. Jack, do you have a question? So find the mean, find the median, and the mode. Look at their mean. Are you 23.625 years? Can we do anything with that number? What do you think?
You can round it to 24.
You can round it to 24. You could round it to 23.6. So I would say round it to a number that's reasonable. I wouldn't round it to 20 years. That's too much rounding. But when you add it up, what number should you get when you add those number of years all together? 189. And then how many kings or how many rulers were counted there? How many? 8. So what do you do with that 189? Divided by 8. And that's what gives you that 23.625. So the mean here, I'm going to say approximately 23.6, I think we said, years. That's how long the average ruler reigned. There are two people who make that number big and small. They had a big effect, they had a small effect. Do you know which kings or queens those were? Queen Victoria. She 63 years. Is that close to the mean? Nope. And Edward VIII. 1 year. What happened to Edward VIII? Poor Edward VIII. Do you know what happened to him?
He got died.
He got died. Oh my.
He got.
I don't know. It'd be nice to find out. I'm going to find out actually tonight. Find the mode and the median after that, and in order to find the median, you should arrange them from least to greatest. And is there a mode? Wait, we don't have a mode? Well, do we have a number that occurs most often? No, there are no numbers that occur more than once. So there is no mode. And what's the median? Someone get that one?
I think
It's 25.
15. It's not 15.
Yeah, there are 8 numbers, so you have to find the average of the 2 middle numbers. Automatically. Matt? 12 and a half, 12.5, or 12 and a half years. So the median is exactly 12.5 years. And in this case, the mode, yeah, you would say none, and that's okay. None. Do you guys know what the median means? What does the median mean? Not mean, the other mean. Not that mean either, that's too mean. The other mean, the third mean. Yes, what do I mean?
Median means middle.
I talk too fast? Or do I write too fast?
It's going too fast. I can't get down what.
Okay, just try it. I'm just asking them. You can keep going, though. I'm not done with this one yet.
It's the middle number.
Okay, this is what the median means. Half the numbers are above 12 and a half, and half the numbers are below 12 and a half. Do you see that? Some of you are like, yes, I see it, don't know what you're asking. Some of you are like, nope, don't see it, don't know what you said. Please listen. Half the numbers are above 12 and a half, and half the numbers are below. Half above, half below. So how many numbers are above 12 and a half?
12. 11.
4. Because there's half of 8 is 4. How many are below?
5.
4. That's what the median means. It's where it splits half the numbers above and below. Okay, your homework is going to be 16 through 21. It says find the mean, median, and mode. Thank you, Swivl.